So definitely for a small business, we recommend using an accounting software of some sort, right? So our recommended software is QuickBooks Online. This will allow you to either do it yourself or have someone connect to your books easily. Um, depending again, depending on what industry you're in, like our tech stack is a little bit more diverse, right? Like we're using how do you communicate with your customers, right? Are you using Zoom, Google Meets? What is your email service provider using G Suite, Teams, Microsoft, right? Like really looking at all those individual pieces and figuring out what can be a multi-part solution versus
Mhm.
just a single solution is also key, especially for a small business. I would recommend also working with someone to make sure that you don't have overlap, right?
Hello, Empower Nation. Welcome to Empower Her Money podcast. I am your host, Angela Duncan, speaker, best-selling author, serial entrepreneur. We talk all things money and business. Today's episode is sponsored by freemoneytipsbook.com, freemoneytipsbook.com. Download your free ebook, 7 Unshakable Steps to Get You Started on Your Financial Journey. Today's episode, I get to interview Monica with Agile Planners, and she's going to talk about the best accounting software for your business. Hi, Monica. Welcome to Empower Her Money podcast. Tell me something awesome about today.
Wow, it's a beautiful day. I'm so excited for the holidays, everything. I'd love to see everybody festive and decorating and getting all set up. It's such a beautiful time of the year.
Awesome. Well, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about your story and how you got into the business you're doing today?
Sure. So I actually kind of got thrown into the accounting world. I took a job as a receptionist when I was like 19, I want to say. And somebody started teaching me their accounting, like debits and credits in this big, like general ledger format that we had to write. So back then we used to receive like on Wednesdays, like 200 checks, and we used to have to manually log these and
Oh
then
my goodness.
like we weren't allowed to like photocopy. I'm dating myself, right? Like this was such a long time ago. And right, that I literally changed my major and everything to study accounting after that, because I loved it so much. And so I kind of I really, really what I love about finance and accounting and really about the e-commerce world right now is how all systems integrate and how much data is available to us, right? And so I was 24 years old and I started working at Carnival Cruise Lines. It was crazy. I think back now and I'm like, were they thinking allowing, I had like a staff of like 12 people. It was definitely a huge responsibility. And that's where I got my love of point of sale systems and really how systems integrate and how one piece talks to another. And I've been doing this now close to 25 years, more than 25 years, which, and I love it more and more. That's the interesting part, right? And I guess what I'm really finding now is the difficulties that people have with their money mindset, right? We have these stories about what money means and whether we're worthy enough to make money and spend money and all these other things. And I'm just really passionate about helping women understand that money's a tool like any other tool, right? And the more you have of it and the smarter you are making money moves, the more you can do and the more you can help and care for other people that you love. And if we just switch that mindset, it would be so powerful.
Yeah. So you're speaking right to my heart. Obviously, Empower Her Money podcast, talking about money. I feel the same way about money mindset. I talk a lot about that as well. And when you think about like accounting in general, how much data has to transit from side to side, right? And thankfully, we have incredible technology today, but you still want to pay attention and hire a professional to make sure that all of that information is being entered and being categorized correctly. But if you don't actually look at your numbers, I'm sure you've got some stories about that. So talk about a little bit of, how you decided that this is going to be more of what you're going to do, and maybe some examples with business owners of mistakes that you've seen that they make too.
So what's interesting is that I think that your accounting team, I mean, and this kind of depends on the size of your business, but you really need three people on your accounting team, right? Like, so you need a bookkeeper for sure, right? Like you need somebody that knows the ins and outs of your business. And I kind of think of bookkeepers that are like working in your present day, what's happening, right? You need your tax accountant, right? And they're kind of in some ways they're working on your past and your future, right? So they're working on closing out your taxes for last year, but they're also tax planning, right? And figuring out strategy for the future. And then I would say nowadays what we really need is your CFO, right? And this is a service that we started providing in the last 2 or 3 years, because just looking at your numbers isn't enough. You need to like strategize and figure out what's working, what isn't working. Is your pricing right? Like, where are you going? What's your goal? Working on that strategy. So now I would think all of these three team members together is what makes like your powerhouse for your business. And that along with a bunch of other things that you need in your business. But as far as your accounting team, I think that that's really what's important. I would say that what's interesting is what I hear from business owners a lot is that they feel alone, on this journey, right? Like they may have a team, they may have employees, but they don't necessarily want to talk about whatever's worrying them at night or keeping them up, or if they feel that their numbers aren't right. You need a guide. You need somebody that you can talk to, right? That you can throw ideas across with. I feel like that's really important, in your business.
Yeah, and I like how you broke it down to 3 key people, and I think business owners get scared about, "Oh, I need to hire 3 full-time people," but you don't. There are companies that can provide you for the bookkeeping piece of it. You can hire a CPA. I like your idea of the CFO. You can do a fractional CFO, someone you can hire part-time that's really gonna be dedicated to you part-time because maybe your business doesn't need a full-time person in any of those categories, and they can be a little bit different too. The other one that I would add to that too is a tax strategist, because they're looking at the current IRS laws and figuring out how can your business take advantage of some of those laws that are already in place and meant for small business owners that they may not be aware of, things that they're already spending money on as it is, and just being able to keep some of that hard-earned money in their pocket. And that comes from a tax strategist. And again, that person can be part-time. You don't need to hire full-time people for all of those. So I really like how you broke that down, because I don't know that a lot of business owners understand the differences between those categories.
Absolutely. And it is, it's kind of like the world we work in now is that you can have a fractional anything, right? You can have a marketing person that's fractional. And I do recommend that you look into these services, especially if you're looking to grow and scale, right? Like you shouldn't have to do it alone. That's the important part of finding your team and being in alignment with other people that have the same goals that you have, right? And having that those key people on your team is a game changer. It can really catapult your business to the next level.
Yeah. So for you as a business owner, what do you think some of the challenges that you are facing right now, whether that it's the economy or the business owners that you're working with, what are some challenges that you face?
So I think what's happening lately, what we've seen a lot of is it is a kind of different economy, right? Like there's a what I would call a pseudo recession, right? Where we've talked about it, no one's really saying we're in a recession, but people are a little scared with spending money. Depending on what industries you work in, some people's sales have catapulted in this market, and other people like construction has been pretty tough, right? The other thing is I would say the challenge is we have so much tech available to us, and it's really understanding the tech and making it work for us, right? There's I met with someone the other day that's selling on multiple platforms, right? This is an e-commerce seller selling on multiple platforms. Um, has all these different applications and software that they're using, but not really understanding how they can all work together, right? So they're
Mhm.
just adding more and more to their tech stack and not evaluating like, is there a better solution? I would say the other thing, what I challenge a lot of business owners now is I think everybody's an e-commerce business, right? Think about how you take payments. Whether you're using Venmo, Zelle, you have contracts and proposals that have payment applied to them, buy now, pay later. people that are using a firm, things like that. Like these are all tech integrations that do affect your accounting and your finance. And so really having a plan for that, right? Like really making sure that you understand how all of those works is key.
Yeah, and some of those applications can be really inexpensive, but it'll help you streamline your business a little bit more so that you can give more time to your business with taking tasks that are most likely not your strength or what you're focused on, taking them off your plate, streamlining it, but spending a little bit of money to figure out how those systems can talk together so that both you and your clients have great experiences. So, are there any systems that you recommend for business owners? Perhaps let's just take a brand new business owner, for example. They're coming to you, they don't want to, come back later and have really bad books for you to take a look at. What are some things that you recommend for them to start off with?
So definitely for a small business, we recommend using an accounting software of some sort, right? So our recommended software is QuickBooks Online. This will allow you to either do it yourself or have someone connect to your books easily. Um, depending again, like depending on what industry you're in, like our tech stack is a little bit more diverse, right? Like we're using how do you communicate with your customers, right? Are you using Zoom, Google Meets? What is your email service provider using G Suite, Teams, Microsoft, right? Like really looking at all those individual pieces and figuring out what can be a multi-part solution versus
Mhm.
just a single solution is also key, especially for a small business. I would recommend also working with someone to make sure that you don't have overlap, right? And the thing
Mhm.
is that you don't know what you don't know. And for me, business owners didn't get into this to like do their bookkeeping or figure out the tech, right? Like, and there's a lot of people that do have experience setting up these systems. And the other thing I would say is communications, right? Like, think about how many ways do we get? We get text messages, WhatsApp, DMs, and Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all these things, right? So how are you communicating with your customer? What is the best way to organize that so that you're not missing any leads, opportunities, or prospects?
Yeah, so you're really diving deep into their systems and their operations to figure out what's working, what might not be working, helping them understand what each of those applications might be doing, or perhaps some things that it does that they don't know about, just to be able to, again, streamline your business as much as possible so you can go out and do whatever service or product that you're best at. So that's a great approach too. So then what about for someone who really wants to expand? Are there any applications that are better for companies that are in expansion mode or maybe bigger companies?
So, there's been so many advancements in even in just like using QuickBooks, right? Before, Intuit used to recommend that when you were using their desktop software, you had to be within the under 4 million, right? Like, and I have businesses that we work with that are over 50 million right now that are still using QuickBooks. It's insane the advancements that we've done. I would say it's more important to understand how you're using the product
Mm,
more so than which. I mean, there is a point when you would have to look at different systems, right? And it depends again on what are your integrations. It depends on how you're selling, how you're receiving money, but really taking the time to understand how these systems work. And if it can't be you, then making the decision to definitely work with someone that can do that for you.
mhm,
That's really what's key. We see a lot of we see a lot of errors for things that are tech advancements, right? Like something like bank feeds. It's very easy to classify revenue twice depending on what you do. And so that type of thing, if you're not understanding the way the product works, then I think there's a lot of strength in saying, hey, this isn't for me. I need to work with someone that knows what they're doing because that
mhm,
will take you to the next level. Sometimes I find business owners are a little bit scared of investing in that aspect until they realize that, whoa, wait, I have a problem. Like, this doesn't make sense. I know I didn't sell this much, or why am I running out of money, right? Like, why is it that this it shows that I made X, but I really don't have any money? Like those type of things let you know that it may be time for you to outsource that, and that will give you, in my opinion, it's a lot easier to spend on that to get the results that you want than to try to do it on your own. and it doesn't have to be a long-term thing, right? Like sometimes we think that it's a big long-term investment. You can work with someone that can help you build a strategy
Mhm.
for the next 3 months, the next 6 months, the next 9 months, right? Get you through that hump of whatever it is you're trying to build.
Yeah. And so for your business owners that perhaps haven't really looked at reports, don't know which reports to look at. I know QuickBooks has tons of options and available. What are some of the first reports that you're recommending your business owners take a look at? And then what within the reports are they should be paying attention to?
Right. So, I mean, everyone loves the profit and loss report because everyone loves to look at how much money they're making and where that money's going. So that's a given, right? I always joke that no one loves the balance sheet. You know, it's like the balance sheet gets no love. But at the end of the day, that's the health of your business. Learning to really understand what's going on in your balance sheet is super powerful. Knowing it, like, and I don't want to, again, like it sounds kind of boring, but things like looking at solvency and liquidity, right? Like how much money do I have? Is my business healthy? Can I do this for another year? Can I do this like for another 6 months? Those numbers don't live on your P&L. They live on your balance sheet. And so that's super important. And then really understanding your cash flow, right? As far as the cash flow statement in QuickBooks, sure, it's standard, but here I would recommend that you work with someone to understand the ins and outs, especially if you have a seasonal business, right? So there's right now for some retailers, like it's great. Everybody's selling or whatever, but what happens in February? Like, did we plan for that? Do we know what our expenses are? Are we forecasting our cash to make sure that we're getting through our slower seasons?
Yeah.
I would definitely recommend working on that as well.
Gotcha. So if someone wants to get into your field and start a company, what are some of maybe the early lessons that you learned when you were starting your company and starting to grow?
So there's a lot of free training out there. Intuit has a pro advisor program. You can get certified in every product that they have. Our firm is certified even in their old school, tech things that don't exist anymore, right? Like we've held every certification. It's important that you really understand the product that you're supporting. But there's also a lot of industry leaders that are teaching how to do specific things for specific industries. That's also super important. Jumping on webinars with software providers, third-party integrations, understanding those things, that's all free education for you. Um, Highly recommend that if you are going to pursue being in the bookkeeping, accounting, or finance world, there's so much more available to us now than what we had like education wise and just taking courses and things like that. Staying on top of tech changes and what is available is super important.
Yeah, and I will say I use QuickBooks and I do have a pro advisor account because I'm always learning. Those certifications are not easy. So the fact that you were able to get so many of the older ones and the newer ones for the audience listening, if you're going to hire a bookkeeper, that's so important because it really dives deep into the program, which allows you to figure out what you need to do with the software that's going to best serve your clients. And the fact that you've spent the time to get the certifications, not all bookkeeping or accounting firms will do that either.
Yeah, and it's also important to know um, software as a service is tricky and it's constantly changing. And so staying on top of the certifications will let you know where the developers are leading and then also providing feedback, right? Letting them know what's working and isn't working. It's a double-edged sword. I love the tech advancements, but then they change things and it's like, well, wait a minute, I just trained my client on how to do this, right? So having a patient mindset with this and know that things will change. It's not always black and white, but having the certifications, taking the training, being on webinars will help you stay in the know.
That's very interesting. All right. So I have a fun question for you. If you could have a superpower or super talent, what would it be and why?
So I would say that if I had a superpower, it would be to teleport anywhere. I would love, I do not like driving, especially out here in Miami. So getting to wherever it is that we're going, even if it's just to hang out with family and friends without having to sit in traffic would be amazing. So that's what I would want.
Yeah, I like that answer too. All right, Monica, if our audience wants to get in touch with you, learn more about the services and what you can provide for the clients, if you have anything else going on, it's your time to share.
Absolutely. So you can find us at agileplanners.com. You can read about all the services that we provide, including our bookkeeping and fractional CFO services. And if you book a call with me, I'd be happy to discuss anything. There's a link on there in the contact to book a call. So if anyone wants to just, talk strategy or anything like that, feel free to book a call.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, Monica.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning into Empower Her Money podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to subscribe, share this podcast, and leave a review wherever you are tuning in.